Hi, thanks so much for tuning into our Facebook Live video for Social Work Month. We wanted to dedicate this time to help people better understand what exactly social work is and why it's so important to Centerstone and in society outside of our organization. So today we're joined by a few of Centerstone's social workers, each with different areas of expertise. But I would like to go ahead and make a disclaimer that most of us are still working from home, so there's a chance you could hear cats or dogs or anything else in the background, so please bear with us for that. But I'll give it just a few more seconds, just if anyone else would like to join, and then we can get started. Perfect. So we can go ahead and get started now. I'll introduce myself first. I'm Michael Sostre. I'm the Public Relations Coordinator for Centerstone. And today I am joined by some of Centerstone's staff members who are here to talk about the importance of social work. And they're all social workers in their roles as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start and turn it over to Taylor to introduce herself, and then we'll let our other speakers introduce themselves as well.
Hi, my name is Taylor Marks. I'm a licensed clinical social worker at Centerstone. I work primarily in the state of Illinois, and I'm a clinical coordinator, but also a project director for a couple of federal grants that we have to help clients in our area.
Thank you. Now I'll let Greg introduce himself as well.
Hi, I'm Greg May. I work primarily or mostly in Indiana. I am the administrative director for the Adult and Family Services Division. I have a unique role in that my role is split into a clinical piece in which I work in treatment courts, and then administratively I interface with a lot of systems that staff use at Centerstone. So I'm always working to make sure those systems are user-friendly for folks that have to navigate those systems.
Thank you. And now we can let Regina introduce herself as well.
Hello, my name is Regina Plummer. I work at the Centerstone in Alton, Illinois as an EDA counselor. Part of my job is working as a co-responder with the Alton Police Department, and the other part is providing teletherapy, specializing in trauma and EMDR.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. And I just would like to go ahead and again say all of you, thank you for being here and sharing your time with us today. That's so valuable. And I'll also go ahead and say that we are also accepting questions in the chat. And again, we want to thank you for bearing with us as we had our technical difficulties. So thank you so much for that and still sticking with us now. But again, we'll be accepting questions. So if you have anything you want to ask any or all of these social workers, put it in the chat on Facebook and you'll be able to connect with us there. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the first question though. And this one can kind of be directed toward anyone, but I'll go ahead and start with Regina with this. So you've given us kind of a quick introduction into your role as a social worker and within Centerstone. Could you maybe delve a little more into into your role and how your background affects your work at Centerstone?
Sure. So I was hired in December of 2019 to work at the Centerstone in Alton as a co-responder with the Alton Police Department. It's a grant funded position, brand new. When I first started, I spent a couple of weeks doing ride-alongs with the officers just in order to get an idea of the types of calls the officers see on a regular basis, the types of responses that they have. And it was also a way to build rapport with the officers, talk about how some of the calls might have a mental health component that would better be served by seeking mental health services and resources. One of the things that we've done that has been useful is we created a tracking spreadsheet to give us the ability to see the number and types of mental health calls each month, how the officers are responding, where people are going, what they're needing. I review all 911 calls that come in and then add the mental health calls to the tracking spreadsheet. Originally, I would have been following up in person with the officers, but due to COVID, I'm doing follow-up by phone as opposed to in person. When I talk to the people, many of them seem really appreciative of the follow-up. I wasn't sure what type of responses I was going to get, and a lot of them are like, it makes me feel like the police really care about me. I really appreciate this follow-up and helping with the things that I need. The police department generally seems to care what's happening with people, and they appreciate the follow-up also. And it's just a nice feeling to be able to provide that extra step after the initial response. The other part of my job is providing teletherapy. So I worked in sleep medicine for 20 years, helping people who suffer from sleeping disorders. And when I heard about EMDR, which stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing, and how it works similarly to REM sleep when we process the experiences that we have by using the bilateral stimulation of the eye movements, I knew that's what I wanted to specialize in. So when Centerstone offered the in-house EMDR training, I asked to be signed up. And now I see therapy clients who have trauma backgrounds and who are interested in EMDR. I love seeing the healing that comes from EMDR. And my long-term goal is to be a teletherapist specializing in trauma.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And also with that police department connection, I think that's very important because I feel like for a long time, different mental health calls maybe haven't been quite equipped to handle that the best possible way. So having someone there with them just seems like such a great way to actually handle that. So thank you for doing that work as well. And next I'll go ahead and ask Greg kind of what his more area of expertise is within social work at Centerstone.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. I have worked at Centerstone for a number of years. I'm coming up on 19 years in May. During my time here, I've worked clinically, like pretty exclusively with adults with severe and persistent mental illness and people with substance use disorders. Most recently, I've spent a lot of time working in problem solving or treatment courts. So currently I act as a liaison to a drug court, a reentry court, a mental health court, and a veterans treatment court. And what I like about treatment courts are they give people the option to participate in treatment instead of being incarcerated, which is really important for me because if you incarcerate someone who has a treatment need and you don't treat their need, they come out and they still have a treatment need. So, this is really the opportunity to interact with law enforcement, interact with, court agencies, probation, parole, pretrial supervision. You get to have interaction with all of those folks to help people who have a treatment need actually make sure that the treatment need is addressed. And that remains an important issue. I'm fortunate enough to be in a county where that works really well, and there's a lot of collaboration and coordination. But there still are some other places who haven't quite made that connection yet. And, people get terms of incarceration when it really is a treatment need. So again, just having the opportunity to participate in that has been a really cool experience.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I mean, very similar to Regina, kind of getting to actually address those needs as soon as you see them, rather than them being something that, in Regina's case, the police answer a call and maybe aren't fully able to properly handle that. And then in this case, that they will actually direct people to the right place so that they can actually have help and then a better future. I think that's awesome. So thank you for sharing that with us. And then Taylor, if we could hear a little bit about your area of expertise within social work too, that'd be great.
Yes. So I've been working at Centerstone for a few years now, and I had some history before Centerstone with working in some different fields. The really cool thing about Centerstone and social work in general is there's just so many different populations and people that you can work with within Centerstone. And so I've had experiences in different social work fields of working with different populations. And so when I came to Centerstone, I really identified wanting to work with high school age students. So I did that for a while. And then I realized that there were opportunities for us to obtain grants. And these grants are things that we can apply for when we know that there's a need that we just aren't meeting yet within our services. And so that really appealed to me. And now that's primarily what I work on is we receive these large grants that say we're going to, one of mine is to provide substance use services to adolescents and young adults. And so I really get to interact with those types of clients and our community members to see how we can best provide services that's going to meet the needs of those populations. And so I am really focused on continuing to receive more grants and identify more ways that we can help the community and help clients where we currently aren't able to help them right now. So that's what I'm doing is working in that grant world.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think that's definitely kind of a hallmark of social work, is that interaction with the community and kind of trying to strengthen the whole community, even past just the people you serve and with the people you serve. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. So my next question is for Greg. So I know you've worked very extensively in different realms of social work and with the treatment courts and various things, and both in clinical settings as well. In your eyes, why is social work essential?
For me, social work is essential. And I think the reason that I like being a social worker most is that you have the opportunity to meet the person where they are. And I'll expand, kind of the person to be the community, the situation, the program, and really, have the opportunity to, do a deep dive into a needs assessment and find out what is important to, the folks in that situation. Like, what is it that they want to work on? And how do we as social workers take the steps to help them get there? What I like about social work is that it's not scripted in a way where it's like, okay, you show up and someone has problem A, so you respond with solution B. It's very tailored to meet the need of that person, the need of that community, and the need of that program. And I think, having that flexibility to have a tailored approach allows us to have better outcomes.
Definitely. And I guess a lot of that kind of takes knowing, as I was just talking about, like getting involved with the community, knowing your community, so that you do know all those different approaches.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. So that kind of leads into my next question. And this one can kind of be, anyone can kind of answer, but I'll start with Taylor. So as a social worker, what are unique ways that you approach those who are in need?
Yeah, so I think there's so many unique ways that we're approaching clients and needs. One of them being that because there are so many ways that social workers interact with clients, and really what Greg said with meeting clients where they're at, sometimes that means actually physically meeting them where they're at and going into the community and seeing them in their home, seeing them, at the police department or wherever our clients are at, having the availability to really go and see them and meet them where they are and be a support for them. And so I think that's one unique way where it's not, we do have plenty of social workers who stay in our offices and clients can come to us, but there's so many ways that we are getting out there and making sure that people, no matter what their barriers are to treatment or what they have going on in their lives, we're really able to serve them and get to where they are to best be able to assist them.
Definitely. Yeah. And I've even heard recently, as I've been kind of having more of these conversations about social work with Centerstone staff, that social workers look at everything from like a strength-based lens. So kind of being able to see the potential in everyone. Would you say that that's accurate?
Absolutely. One of my favorite things about meeting with a new client is we're always assessing not only what's going wrong in that person's life, but what are the strengths? What can we build off of? Whether that's you have one close friend, or maybe it's that you have a car and you have transportation, or, it can be something small as in you met with me today. That's a strength that you are open to receiving some type of support or help. All of those things and so much more can be identified as strengths. And then throughout treatment, we're able to build on those things and say, okay, here's the problem, but let's look at those strengths too. And how can we build on those to really tackle your problem and help you through that?
Right. I think that's something that's just so admirable about social workers, and kind of, I guess you kind of have to have that heart to be a social worker more than any kind of training, even though you need that too. Like that is kind of the first qualification you need, is the ability to kind of see the best in people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Great. So if no one has anything else to add about that question, I can go ahead and move on to the next, which is, and I can ask Greg this one. What unique perspectives do social workers bring to mental health care specifically in that clinical setting?
I think it goes back to what Taylor was just talking about, and having that ability to kind of show up and meet the person where they are, particularly, if that person is in crisis. I think about folks that we have the opportunity to work with that are in crisis that may have trouble getting to us. So having the ability to, respond, whether it be through a mobile crisis team or, a partnership with the police department or a crisis diversion center or some other type of walk-in clinic. For me, there's really just something in being able to, just be present with the person that's experiencing crisis. And sometimes, in my role, I may not do anything other than sit there with the person until the person's ready to talk. So there are these ideas, it feels like, sometimes that like we're going in and, we're saving the world and we're kind of like, wearing capes and doing all of this cool work. And sometimes that absolutely happens, but sometimes we might just go and we might, show up and sit next to the person. Kind of pre-COVID, it might have been, we offer a handshake, we offer a hug. We can't do that right now, so we have to find other ways to, be present with people that, are experiencing crises or other issues. So for me, the, kind of most important part is just that ability to be there and let that person know, you do not have to go through this on your own. This is a partnership and, I bring some things to this relationship. You bring some things to this relationship. You're an expert in your life and your recovery. And I want to do the things that I can do as a practitioner to clear the path for you so that you can move forward.
Right. So even similar with kind of getting involved in the community is really getting closer to the heart of the people that you're working with too, and making them feel comfortable. It's great.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. And this can be a question for anyone. Would you say that kind of getting people on that level with you and kind of relating to them, has that shifted, or your approaches to that shifted anyway with the COVID-19 pandemic of this last year?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I do a lot of work and I work a lot with students and, kind of overseeing interns and practicum placements. And I've, had conversations with folks that like, school didn't prepare you to work remotely or use technology, right? So when the pandemic kind of became full blown, everybody very quickly had to figure out like, how do we continue to meet the needs of people? And I think, sort of being social workers and having that ability to, be resourceful and be good teachers, it allowed us to, kind of teach our colleagues, but also teach our clients, how do we remain connected in this new reality? So you have folks that can connect through Zoom or, kind of other web-based platforms. You have folks that, depending on, where they live, they may not have that kind of connection, so then how do you build that relationship just over the phone? And you think about having to do this with, new clients or, new partners in the community that, before you could show up and smile and they'd be like, I know that guy, that's Greg May, right? Like, we don't have that now. If we have to talk to someone on the phone, we're literally just picking up the phone and, beginning to build the relationship that way. So we've been able to, I think, do that, and we've been able to work through that, but there wasn't, kind of the preparation that you would typically think about. And we're making this shift in the way that we interact with people. It's like, all right, Friday, we were in the office. Monday, we're all at home. I hope you have a good internet connection and it works and your phone works.
Right. Kind of just taking it as you go with everything, huh?
Very much.
Yeah. I can direct this next question toward Regina, but this is still kind of on the same topic. Have you noticed kind of any trends in how people are feeling and what kind of support that they do need right now?
I've definitely noticed that people are feeling disconnected. I've had quite a few people, while the barrier of being in person, having to wait in the waiting room, having to provide transportation to their appointments and that kind of thing is lifted. They don't have that anymore. They don't have the interaction with the people, the closeness. They've even mentioned like pheromones and physical presence that is missing. And I just think it's making people feel more disconnected, more isolated. It's a lot harder. While we're able to reach people easier, it doesn't mean that it's a better thing.
Yeah, definitely. This has come with many, many challenges, but I feel like that highlights the importance of social workers even more. And with that multifaceted approach that you kind of take to everything, that really, again, highlights the need for social workers even more because we need that kind of adaptability. People really need that right now. Perfect. So I'm going to move on to the next question, and this is also for Regina. And I know you've kind of already talked a little bit about your partnership with your local police department to establish kind of better mental health referrals from law enforcement and assessing that. And you've told us a bit about this. So what are some maybe other ways that your social work background has contributed to helping people outside of a clinical setting? And this can kind of be in your community, in your profession, in your personal life, just kind of the way that you interact with people and help them.
Sure. Well, like Taylor mentioned also, I try to meet people where they are, try to bring a trauma-informed approach to everything, and see what's needed. When I first got into this, I thought that our job was to fix people, right? And I've come to realize that I don't have that power, and that's not our job. And our job is to support people and help them, whatever they need. They're the experts of their own lives. We're just there to support them, help them with resources, bring the education that we have. As a co-responder with the Alton Police Department, I've seen a shift in the response of officers, which has been really neat. Where in the past it might have been more focused on catching the bad guys and keeping the city safe. It's also become focused on the individual, meeting them where they are, especially when the police department's getting multiple calls from the same person or regarding the same person. They're seeing that the incident-related response is not providing a lasting solution because there's often an underlying mental health aspect. So we've helped several people in the community who are homeless and needing resources and services. The officers and I have taken clients to Centerstone so they could engage in mental health services and get the support that they need ongoing. We've also helped people get back home when they're stranded. Like I've seen officers just pick up people who are walking on the side of the road when it's really cold or the weather's bad, just ask them where they're going and take them there, which meets a need right then. So while some people might think that's not the job of the police officers, what they're doing is keeping people safe, being preventative in their responses, which is very cool. And then another part of the job has been maintaining a grant that provided crisis funding. And that allowed me to give out tents, backpacks, sleeping bags, food, bus passes, whatever is needed. So we're just trying to figure out what the needs are and then just meet them, there as opposed to having our own plan.
Right. That all sounds so good. Would you say that being involved now with kind of that close interaction with the police has expanded your view of the community and helped you be more involved? I mean, clearly you were making all these different connections and doing all these various services that you might not have even known you were originally signing up for. So do you think that that kind of has put you closer into the community?
Absolutely. I had no idea what to expect, which is why I wanted to go on the ride-alongs. These officers, I'm just so proud actually to be working with them because they go above and beyond, way above and way beyond. One of my favorite things that has happened is somebody called because she was not feeling safe. And during that call, one of the police officers set up her DVD to her TV. And the call ended up reading no further police need, at this time. So it's just, what is needed and what's going to make that person feel better and what's going to prevent them from calling 911 again. And just being willing to do that and being a human being. And it's not just a job, it's actually working with people in the community who need your help. And it's pretty awesome.
Right. That's amazing. I'm sure having that impact, working with the police department so much, kind of having that social work influence helped them kind of come to that conclusion of kind of that is just a need that needed to be met. Yeah, I think that's amazing. Would you, Greg, say similarly with your, I guess, redirection to receiving services and treatment rather than being incarcerated? Would you say that that kind of has strengthened your community and kind of put you in a stronger place in your community?
Yeah, I mean, the sort of largest part of my job is, really providing education to those that don't have an understanding of mental health or substance use disorders. So sometimes that's court staff, sometimes that's jail staff, sometimes that's directly the person, that I might be working with. And like Regina was saying, like people just show up and, kind of do this work. And, police officers and, those folks that, typically work in court systems, like they're police officers and they work in court systems because that's the work that they wanted to do. So when we have the opportunity to say, this, there could be trauma here, or, this looks to be, like a substance related issue or, a mental health issue, we, I think in turn are working to make the community better and stronger. And we're helping people understand, really how prevalent substance misuse and mental health conditions are. Because if you don't take the time to have that conversation, particularly with folks that are in law enforcement or, do that work in court systems, they just go on as business as usual, which is you committed a crime. My job is to determine what punishment you get. And then after, we say what punishment you get, then you go to wherever the punishment place is, right? So could be jail, could be probation, could be community corrections or some other kind of community supervision. So in being able to have those conversations, we make the community stronger. We provide a knowledge base that wasn't there. And I think we help people, recognize the next time, that something appears to be something related to a mental health or a substance misuse issue, they know someone to call. And it's not like, oh, well, you did it again. So, we're going to go through the processes and then you're going to go to some place.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that as well. Yeah, it almost kind of seems like it could, like some could view it as kind of like a slowing down of the process. But even if it slows it down at all, the intention is for it to be preventative as well. So people, like you said, do know how to kind of connect to those services that they really need, and kind of gives everyone a better understanding of people as they go through these processes. So thank you so much. So my next question I'm going to direct towards Taylor. And I just kind of wanted to talk about, I know in social work, you deal with people not really fully understanding what it actually is. They might kind of have different ideas of social workers coming in, like taking away something or doing something that just completely uproots someone's life. So what are maybe some common misconceptions about social work and some kind of truths that you can use to combat them?
Yeah, so I think this is a great question because even me as a social worker, I remember early in the field thinking, okay, now what is it that I do? Because there's just so many things that you can do, and everybody has had a different experience with a social worker, whether it was your own personal experience or you saw it on TV or in a movie or read an article about it. Everyone has such a different perception of what social workers are. I think most of us have probably heard someone refer to us as the people that go into homes and take babies away. And really that is not what our goal is at all. And so I kind of to go off of that example, one of the grants that I am working on is specifically related to families who have an open DCFS case or a child welfare case. And what we're doing is we're bringing those kiddos with their biological parents, if there's foster parents involved or other supports in the family or the community, we're bringing them together and providing treatment so that those kids can return home or that they aren't going to be removed from the home. Our number one goal is to keep people safe and together with their supports and happy. So really, I think everyone, whether it's been a probation officer that you're working with who's called a social worker or a DCFS or child welfare worker that's disrupting your family or whatever the case may be, really the reason that we're doing those things is so that we can help help all of those families and those people be healthy and safe and together. And so at the end of the day, it really is our goal to provide the best treatment and to meet whatever barrier is standing in the way of them being happy and healthy. We're going to try to alleviate that so that we can move on and we don't have to disrupt your life anymore. We really, we love being involved with families, but we also love when they can do it without us. And that's our goal, is to be able to provide the skills and the help that they need so that they don't need us and they can continue living life to the best of their ability. So it really is just a change in perspective. And at the end of the day, just knowing that we aren't there to be the bad guys, we're there to just help you help yourself and to move on without needing us.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that's so important to actually see what you do as what it is. Excuse me, and kind of, I don't know, coming in to help people. And like you said, like the whole point is you help them so that they don't need your help anymore. I think that's a great way to approach it. So I just have one more quick question for everyone. And you can just take a second to answer, but I'll go ahead and start back with Taylor. What do you love about being a social worker?
So I've referenced it quite a few times already on this meeting, but just being able to do so many different things within social work is my favorite part about social work. I have worked with adults, I've worked with kids, I've worked in schools, I've worked in homeless shelters. It really doesn't, social work is not just this tiny bubble. It is so many things and you can do so many different types of jobs. And whether you are a social worker that's helping people face to face, or kind of where I'm transitioning right now is, or have transitioned, is I don't see as many clients face to face, but I'm working on getting those services and building those services so that we fill gaps and people need what they can get what they need. And so it's just really cool to me that within Centerstone and within the social work field, there's so many opportunities for us. I can, whenever I see an interest or something that I feel passionately about, or I know that our community needs, I can kind of hop over there, and I'm still being a social worker, but I'm still, I'm doing different things and I'm moving around. And that's really cool to me about social work and Centerstone, that provides us those opportunities all within one agency to hop around and do all the things while staying within one agency.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. It sounds like a very busy work too.
That is true.
Thank you so much for sharing. Same question for you, Regina. What do you love about being a social worker?
In my role, I love the diversity. I really enjoy working with the Alton Police Department as a co-responder. I love seeing the different types of calls and collaborating on how we can work together to help those people in need. I'm also super passionate about providing therapy that focuses on the root causes of so many issues, like relationship issues, substance abuse, sleep problems, mental health disorders, and anything that keeps people from living their best lives.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And now, Greg, again, same question. What do you love about being a social worker?
I like that there is a lot of variety in my role. Sometimes I'm doing work directly with people that we have the opportunity to serve through our work at Centerstone. Sometimes I'm conducting a training. Sometimes I'm meeting with, folks in the community from different agencies to figure out how do we remove a barrier to make it easier for someone to get into treatment. Sometimes I'm having conversations with folks in community agencies about what does a substance use issue look like? What does a mental health issue look like? And, how do we do our best to empower the person who needs help to get the services that they need? There's this sort of maybe a myth that, some people think that social workers fix people. And that because someone comes to treatment or they've seen a social worker or a counselor that they're like automatically better, right? But it really is this journey of like empowering the people. And, sometimes it's directly empowering the people that you're providing a service to. Sometimes you're providing that, empowerment, knowledge, and resource to the larger community so that when, issues come up, your community knows how to respond or how to make that connection for the person in need. And that's what I love about this work, because I get to do that every day. And sometimes it's a planned part of my day, and sometimes it's not. I could be at the grocery after work and someone knows me from somewhere, and then we have a conversation about how do we get someone that person knows connected to the services that they need. So we're just present, and people know us and use us as a resource, and I like being a part of that.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think what you just said, we're just present. I think that's such a good way to sum it up. Kind of what everyone on this call has been saying. You're just present, and you're there to help people, and you're kind of taking any approach you can. You don't have kind of the specific formula you take. You're just ready to kind of think through those things and walk through like with people. I think that's amazing. Thank you so much. But I think that's all the time we have. So I really appreciate everyone giving their time today to join this conversation. And I'd like to remind everyone that this video will be up on our Facebook page afterwards, so you can access it later if you would like. I also want to say that if you feel that you or anyone you know can benefit from connecting with our Centerstone social workers such as these, you can call us at our main phone number at 1-877-HOPE-1223. That's 877-467-3123. Or you can visit centerstone.connect.org to get connected. So to our speakers, I would like to thank you all again for your time, and I'll let everyone get back to their day. Thank you.